Happy February, everyone. When most of us think about February, we think about love and connection. And when I started planning episodes for this month, I thought about that too, but not in the way you might expect. The kind of love I've been thinking about this year isn't romantic, but it is just as powerful. It's the love of a grandmother. Welcome back to the Melanin Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Corey, and today we're kicking off a 4-part series that I have titled Love Lessons from Grandma for your body, your heart, and your home. Now, I know you might be wondering what this has to do with wellness. Just stick with me. You'll see. In today's episode, we're talking about one of the most important lessons my grandmother taught me about health and wellness without ever realizing that she was teaching it. And that is how to feed the people you love, including yourself. When I was a child, I followed my grandmother everywhere in the kitchen. I watched her sift flour through a metal flour sifter, coating the counters as she made bread, and her famous yeast rolls completely from scratch. I watched her pour flour into a paper grocery bag, season it with salt, pepper, paprika, onion powder, and garlic powder, and a lot of love, and then drop pieces of chicken inside and shake it up just before frying it. These were just some of the ways that she showed love through food. But what stands out to me now, especially as a grandmother myself, is what I didn't see her do. I didn't see her consistently feed herself. So whether it was just the fact that she was exhausted from working as hard as she did, or simply spent from pouring into everyone around her, she often neglected her own care. And it is important to remember that back then, there was no such thing as self-care Sundays or wellness Wednesdays like we have now, especially for Black women. Taking care of yourself was rarely discussed. It was unspoken. You just pushed through. That was the norm. I carried that same philosophy with me for decades. And over time, I started to feel like I was suffocating, unfulfilled, unhappy, completely exhausted. I remember the point that it came down to when I was thinking, there has to be more to life than feeling like this. And I was right. When we talk about food, we usually think about 3 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But for most of my early life, breakfast was my least favorite meal. Long before I developed an egg allergy that limited my options, I skipped breakfast regularly. From my late teens into my early 30s, that was the norm for me. I don't really remember when that habit started. I just know it became normal. That changed when I began studying nutrition, fitness, and the body. I started paying attention to the time between dinner and my next meal, and the gap was shocking. Sometimes it was 18 hours or more. Yikes. Not great for hormones, not great for your mood, and definitely not great for energy. I was often tired and exhausted and irritable. So I slowly reintroduced breakfast, and one of my favorites became a ground turkey omelet. It is a true break fast. It's filling, it's delicious, and it's supportive for hormones when balanced with veggies, healthy fats, and carbs. I love mine up with veggies. Green bell peppers and onions are my absolute favorites. So how do you like your omelets? Have you ever tried one with ground turkey? I'd love to know. You can leave me a voice message on the show's SpeakPipe because I love to hear how you take your omelets. The link will be in the show notes, and your voice could be featured in a future episode. You never know. Now, when I think about my grandmother, comfort always comes to mind, and so does comfort foods. One of my absolute favorites is chicken and dumplings. Now, I don't know how many of you out there have had traditional Southern chicken and dumplings. It is a meal that is made with all the love that comes so deep from the soul. And I make that once or twice a year for my family. My youngest son always says that he loves it because it instantly reminds him of Granny. She would make this meal when I was a little girl, and I would watch her so intently as she would roll out the dough and make those dumplings on the countertop covered in flour. Except she would use shortening, and she would roll it out with a glass because she didn't have a rolling pin at the time. And so I would watch her make this with her bare hands and just continue rolling out that dough and cutting it with a knife. I remember savoring every single bite of those delicious dumplings. Now, back then, they thought that, shortening was better for us. But now we know a little different. Now, when I prepare my dumplings for my chicken and dumplings, I prepare it just a little bit differently than the original recipe. I swapped out the shortening, and now I used like a plant-based butter or a ghee butter, which is a clarified butter. I made those changes because shortening is a saturated fat. And back in the day, many of our elders cooked with lard because it was more affordable, shelf-stable, and marketed as a healthier option. That practice was passed down from my great-grandmother to my grandmother and my mother, and then to me. And while the ingredients may have evolved, there's always been one constant in that recipe: love. I grew up watching my grandmother feed people. And when I say feed, I don't just mean put food on a plate. I mean anticipating needs before anybody ever asked. She knew who liked extra gravy, who didn't want gravy at all, who needed their plate wrapped up to go, who hadn't eaten all day just by the looks on their faces. That was love. That is love. But what nobody really talked about was how often the women doing the feeding were the last ones to sit down, if they sat down at all. Somewhere along the way, many of us learned that nourishment was something that you give, not something that you pause to receive. So we feed everyone else, our kids, our partners, our communities, and our jobs. And then we wonder why we're exhausted, anxious, hormonal, snappy, disconnected, and, quote unquote, forgetting to eat. But forgetting isn't the truth. The truth is that we were taught to outperform our biology. The silent self-neglect epidemic is one that has become socially acceptable and cloaked as strength while labeling those who do it as hustlers. What I've had to learn as a grown woman is that nourishment isn't just ancestral, it's personal. Emotionally, I've had to learn that I don't have to earn rest by being depleted first, that I'm allowed to feel my feelings instead of powering through them. Physically, I've had to learn that skipping meals isn't discipline. It's disrespect to my nervous system. My body doesn't need to beg me for fuel. It deserves consistency. And hormonally, child, I learned that my hormones don't respond to hustle. They respond to safety. Regular meals, balanced blood sugar, gentle routines, listening instead of overriding. What my grandmother taught me was how to love others through nourishment. What life has taught me is I am also someone I love. Feeding yourself is not selfish. It's not extra. It's not something you get to do after everyone else and everything else is done. It is the foundation that allows you to keep showing up without disappearing inside yourselves. So if you needed permission today, this is it. Feed the people you love. That's fine. And include yourself on that list. Always. If this episode stirred something in you and you're ready to relearn nourishment in a way that supports your real life, your hormones, and your body, that's exactly the work that my holistic nutrition cheat sheet does. And I'd love to support you there. I'll leave the link in the show notes for you if you desire. Thank you for listening. Until the next episode. Oh, hey, you're still here. I'm glad. I wanted to leave you with something simple but true, straight from my grandmother's kitchen. Put it in one direction and leave it be. Sometimes love, healing, and even nourishment don't need fixing, just steadiness. Take care.